Good morning. Welcome to the Light on Suitability podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Comeau, with co-host Joe Haytas. He's the author of 36 Strategies of Suitability. We are going through his book again at the request of Dean. We had a kind of a consensus. We're doing this book again. It's a fantastic resource for your loved ones and for the families of loved ones to follow along and figure out what it really takes to be found suitable for parole. And Joe has basically covered it in this book. He also has written another book, and I'd like to give a shout out to that in a minute after I introduce Dean, who's a co-host, another fantastic resource. Lighthouse 9 Consulting. I was just about to say Light on Suitability Consulting. Lighthouse 9 Consulting, which is a correspondence course, but fully interactive correspondence course with Dean, who's extremely knowledgeable about all things getting ready for parole, in particular insight-based stuff. He's got some other things as well, but he covers all crimes. He does not discriminate. So if your loved one is convicted of a sex crime, and I know it's hard to talk about that with other people, not with Dean, he's open arms for all of that. It's not just gang crimes, but he does do gang crimes too. And so he's currently working on, he's got a master's, I believe, before you can get a PhD, and he's working on a PhD, all things what I call parole, which are going to help him become even better at what he does. He also goes into the prisons and helps the guys and gals figure out what it is they need to prepare, not only figure it out, but showing blind spots. And that's kind of what we do on this show. It's all about where's the blind spot, right? And a couple of exciting announcements. Joe's got a new book, and I am really wanting to switch gears to that book. But at this clip, with Dean being on board, we'll probably get through this book within the year, and we'll be able to move to Joe's next book. Let us know the title again. I remember it's a great title.
Yes, it's called Inside Out: From Doing Life to Reclaiming Your Life.
Right.
And it's it's on Amazon now. It's so new, I haven't even gotten a copy yet.
Okay.
So it's on order, and I can't wait to see it in book form.
I bet. In the old days, we used to get, when you published a book, you got boxes of books sent to your house, and then, I don't know, I guess they don't do it like that anymore.
No, they do. Yeah, I'm waiting for that box. I ordered like 15 copies.
And do you pay the publisher, or do you pay, this is a stupid question probably, or do you pay Amazon to send you the books?
Yeah, I pay Amazon, yeah.
So you pay the profit to yourself or whatever?
No, they send me author copies, so it's a little
author copies.
Yeah. Got
it. We're excited about that book, Joe. Really excited. I know Dean is too. But Dean's really excited about this book. And next week, Dean came on board and told us that you tell us. My brain is freezing up.
Yeah, we're in hopefully things work out and we get all the approval needed. We'll be able to have a group of guys that we run programs with at Pleasant Valley State Prison. Will be able to attend the podcast.
So fantastic.
Yeah, it would be great because a lot of them are, they're lifers. They're going to board, and there's a lot of really relevant information on this podcast that would help them. So as long as we can get everything straightened out within a week and get the approval that we need to, it'll work out. If not, there's really nothing we can do about it. So hopefully we can get it.
If not this week, if it's too short a notice, maybe next week on the next show would be fine. Oh, just for calendaring purposes, I will just tell you in advance, I am leaving here on the 22nd to deliver puppies, starting with Tennessee, back to Dallas, then Fort Lauderdale. And I will not be available Sunday, the 21st, and definitely not the 31st, and possibly not the 7th. So I'll be on the road with my traveling road show of puppies and bucket of files, doing interviews on the way. So possibly those 3 weekends in August, 24, 31, and then September 7th. And I apologize. If one of you wanted to take over, Dean, and host the show, please let me know. If not, we can just hit a pause in the action.
Okay.
I didn't want to say, but I have some vacation dates coming up too, so I'll get to that after the show.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's fine. Letting everybody. Does any of those overlap with the dates that I'm gone to?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine. Well, and Dean and I can, Dean's always usually available too, so we can always pick up the slack there, and perhaps maybe the show will go on, because if we have people that are tuning in, we might want to keep it going. So I want to shift gears now to welcome to all the loved ones who are watching or watching after the fact. We really appreciate it, but really this is just a resource. I don't monetize. It's not a monetizing thing. It's a give back to the community, give back to the families of the loved ones so they could get the inside scoop on what really goes on for parole. Because so many of us get calls, so many of us attorneys get calls from family members after we're sort of counseling waivers or counseling on what the chances are and things like that. And they're very misinformed, and they do misapprehend what the whole thing means. Like life, it really does mean life. It just means that at a certain point in time, you may be able to earn your way out. It means you're eligible. It doesn't mean you just go out at 25 to life. And that's a big misconception with some of our clients still, and for us in particular, family members. Why does he have to, do this parole hearing? Why does he or she have to talk about things that he did when he was 7 years old, and why all these different things? And so this show really unpacks all of that piece at a time, and then we go back and unpack it. If you missed shows before, you don't necessarily have to go back and rewatch all of them. It's just a resource, and hopefully the family members can figure out what's going on from that. So today is strategy 5, another brilliant chapter, of course, from Joe. I mean, he's just covered everything in this book. Get out of the prison gang now. And by now, he means with a big exclamation point. So these, because prison gangs not only are destructive, they're just incompatible with parole suitability, period. And so when you do get out of the gang, take the plunge. If it's an STG, security threat group, designated Roman numeral 1, that you can debrief from. You don't have to debrief, but the commissioners sure do like that reassurance when your loved one does debrief from that, which involves a whole bunch of stuff, including potentially, well, it's a dangerous process. Let's just make no bones about it. It is a dangerous process, but there are so many more channels and avenues for doing that in 2025 than there were in 2000 or 1995. It's a much gentler prison environment for that, but it is onerous, and it does take a lot of courage to do that. STG2s, Roman numeral 2s, those are street gangs, and those designations stay with you, or if you kind of continue to associate with them or loosely associated with one of the STG ones as sort of an affiliate, but not technically, become a member. You just sort of did favors on the side. That affects everyone as well. And it also affects you if you were a street gang member, and then you have to do like renunciation or go SNY or try to do some affirmative steps to take them out of that the way it looks. Because unfortunately, once you join that prison gang, It's kind of assumption of the risk. We call it as lawyers, even if you get out of the gang and you go to an SNY and you run into one of your old buddies, then all of a sudden, if you do something untoward, or you hurt someone's feelings, then he goes running to tattle and then throws your name in the mix because they all know about the confidential information process and they weaponize it, because that's what happens in prison. They use it to leverage. Everything in prison with prisoners is about leverage in some way. So the key takeaways, I'm kind of just, I don't know, I've picked a couple of little things that I'm talking about with this issue, but there's this scorpion analogy. Also, Joe and I used to have guests on this show. Their names were Sean and Daryl. And it was Daryl who actually taught me about the crabs in the bucket philosophy. And if you ever watch crabs being collected in a bucket when fishermen go get crabs, you'll see and then you walk by and aren't you going to cover your bucket? You know, you don't want the crabs to get out. And the fisherman will tell you, I don't have to worry about that because the crabs at the bottom are going to pull the ones trying to get out down to the bottom again. And that's what Daryl likened being in a gang to, and trying to get out of a gang to. And also the scorpion analogy. Gangs are like the scorpion in that fable too. The promising, right? Isn't it promising to take the turtle across the river safe and sound? And then all of a sudden at the very end, bit the turtle, and the turtle's, oh my God, why? How could you do this to me? Because it's like scorpion. It's in my nature. And so that's kind of what the commissioners are. I don't want to say they're thinking, because they really are looking for the best in our clients, but they are really looking, have you overcome that antisocial personality disorder or have you not? And so associating with gangs will drag you down no matter what their promises. So the realities of gang life are obviously, they promote violence, drugs, and crime. And so you can't show that you're rehabilitated or get a mitigating on an institutional behavior if you remain in a gang. So I'm going to turn this over to Joe, because there's so much in this chapter to talk about, and then he'll pass the baton to Dean for his input.
Yes, well, being in a gang, first of all, a gang is two or more people who are on thinking criminally together. If you're going to your parole hearing and you're in a gang, you need to waive the hearing or stipulate to unsuitability, because you got to get out of the gang. You can't even be, they call it on the fence, where you're thinking about getting out or you want to get out, or you say something like, well, I'm in the gang, but I'm not associating with them. I'm not doing anything for them anymore. No, you have to make a clean cut, however you want to call it. You want to divorce yourself from the gang, because if you're in a gang, the commissioners are going to know, and you're toast. Okay. Commissioners probably don't even care about, that you're in AANA or this program over here, or even Dean's program, because you're still thinking the wrong way. You're on that trajectory where you're thinking, oh yeah, I can be in the gang and I can be suitable for parole. Well, no, that's like oil and water. It doesn't mix. I don't know any other way I can say it, because when you're in a gang, you're thinking like a criminal, you're doing criminal things, you're associating with people who think like criminals, who are criminals. There's no other way to say it. So it's wrong, and gangs led you to prison, and gangs are going to keep you in prison. All I can say is that you got to get out, and you have to show some kind of express, overt way of showing that you're not in the gang. And that's either to go to an SNY yard or to debrief or to do something to make some kind of affirmative showing that you're no longer in there and that you renunciate the gang. It has to be a clean cut. There's no sitting on the fence, because if you're on the fence with 1 foot in and 1 foot out, that's not going to cut it. Commissioners don't want to hear that. So you're either in or you're out, and if you want to be found suitable for parole, you better get out. And it even goes into parole plans too, because I had a guy who he wanted to go back to his old neighborhood, and he said, "Yeah, that's where my friends are." And the commissioner did not like that, and even commented on that in the decision. So there's no other way of saying it. I know this is a black and white issue, and if you're in the gang or even still associating with them, oh yeah, they're just my friends, but I don't do anything with them anymore. No, you gotta move on. Move on to a new chapter of your life. Make it positive. Do good things for other people, not bad things against people. Start, if you can, start working on amends in whatever small way that you can, and go to Criminal Gangs Anonymous and be a serious participant. Go to the criminal thinking groups, Criminon, and also take victim impact and see you got to know what your conduct is already, how it's affecting other people, but go deeper into that. I mean, I'm sure you have a surface understanding of it. And, to be in a gang, let's face it, you're terrorizing other people. And that's clearly, it's wrong. So you're not going to be granted parole if you're in a gang terrorizing others, whether they're other gang members or other law-abiding citizens. Whatever way you cut it, it's a big no. It's a big no, and it's a big red flag for the commissioners. And that's the long and the short of it. And that's reality.
Yeah, 100%. And I know Dean is presently going in person every now and then to Pleasant Valley, which Pleasant Valley is notoriously, for lack of a better word, gang infested. And for a lot of the yards, they just got a level 2 yard maybe a year or two ago. And I know it's a programming yard. It's a good programming yard, but it's a lot of gangs and ex-gang members. And I do notice, I will jump in, when I do talk to my clients on these sort of, I don't know what to call them, softish, active yards, like gang members that haven't renounced in some official way by either going non-designated, SNY, going to a different prison, Avenal. That's the issue. We can't, your loved one is saying, I'm not going to that other yard because there's child molesters there. Big no, that's a big black and white. Why? Because that's gang mentality. It shouldn't matter who's on that yard, and you shouldn't be making the thing like, my victim is not as bad, didn't get it as bad off as your victim. And that's what it does as well. It shows a lack of victim impact when my client says, well, I didn't kill anybody, or well, I didn't do this, or well, I didn't, rape somebody or whatever. It's all it does is it marginalizes that other person's victim, which we don't want to do. And that's a big no-no for the panels as well. So Dean can really speak to this. He's at the heart of this. Joe's and I have been representing gang members and former gang members. The hardest clients to talk to at times of all of our clients are I'm just pausing to talk because of the puppies. I don't want to wake them up. The hardest clients we have to represent are gang members and trying to tell these guys, get off the yard. It is literally the most difficult conversation that we have because it's like talking to that brick wall behind Joe today. It just doesn't penetrate for some reason. I think a seed does get planted. I have heard from guys 5 years later going, I miss C, I took your advice. I finally left the gang the way you told me to leave it. But it costs another 5 years. 5 years, but it is very difficult. Maybe Dean can shed some light on how Joe and I can be more persuasive in that angle, and then whatever else you want to toss in there. Sorry, I hit the wrong button.
Okay. Yeah. Joe, I like your definition. Two or more criminal behavior is a gang, and that's right out of Criminals and Gang Members Anonymous. And that's something that the board looks at. And so a lot of times guys will say, well, I'm not in a gang, but then they go to that definition and then, yes, you were. It's really an interesting dynamic with the gangs because for some people, based off of your race, you're automatically in a gang as soon as you step foot in the prison. And if you choose not to be, well, then you're subject to be harmed. But I think that if you're a gang member and you're going to the board and you're not getting a date, because the first thing that they're looking at is there's no change. And for a lot of guys who are gang members, it's a nexus to their crime. They were gang members and doing things when they were out. So nothing has changed. There's no personal transformation. So, going over to the SNY side, which SNY yards pretty much don't exist anymore. They call them non-designated programming yards. And a lot of guys are really hesitant because of the population that's there already, the stigma that's associated with that yard, with those kinds of yards. And so people are really hesitant to make the change. And for most guys, change is uncomfortable anyway. They're comfortable where they're at with what they've been doing. So they don't want to make that change. And when we go in, one thing that I ask the guys is, what is your goal? Your number one goal? What is your goal? And they'll say, well, going home. That's our biggest goal. So my question then is, what are you doing to pour into that? Anything that you're doing that's insignificant is not pouring into going home. And a lot of the insignificant stuff is the prison politics, the gang stuff that goes on. Once you're out, none of that stuff matters anymore. There's no significance to it. So you need to pour yourself into the things that are significant into coming home, getting out of the gangs, not associating. Now, we still have a lot of guys who stay on the main line and they get dates, but a lot of those, they're no longer active in the gang activity. We just had one a few weeks ago who went to the board and was granted, he's on the main line, granted parole, doing a life term for a murder case. And he started pouring himself into self-help groups. And the interesting dynamic about it is that sometimes the races, whatever you're a part of, will look at that. They'll see how you're programming the things that you're doing, and they'll be okay with it. Other times they're not. It depends on the level of yard, the prison that you're on, and different elements that come into play. But for us, I think it's realizing that if you're still in a gang, you're not getting a date. You haven't changed. You're still the same behaviors, the same attitudes, the same. And I like when Elizabeth said about, I don't want to go over there because this kind of people are on these yards, and it's still showing that there's that criminal thinking, that gang way of thinking. And I think that when you do go over to the non-designated yards, it's about putting the blinders on. You're there to program for you so that you can come home. And if the most important thing, if your biggest goal is going home and being with your family, then that's what you do. There's a lot of guys who, when we go into Pleasant Valley, there's guys who are on the GP yard that we go into, and there's guys who are on a non-designated yard. And there's some on the GP yard that I would really like to see go to the non-designated. These are guys that are making the change. I see the process. I see where they're at, and they're in the process of changing. And if they make that step, that just all the better. It's another egg in the basket, for to go home, because you're not being a part of the gang lifestyle, the gang activities, and all those things anymore. Um, so I think for us to help guys make that change is helping them, and it's using the Socratic method. What's important for you? What's your number one goal? You know,
Mhm.
what do you want to pour into? Is it getting in trouble for beating somebody up on the yard, jumping somebody because you all say he's no good? Is that worth more years of your life away from your family, your children, your wife? And I actually had one guy. He said to me, he said, well, what if you're happy with coming in and out of prison and doing dope and living the lifestyle? What if that's fine with you? And I said, okay, that may be fine with you. I said, do you have a mom? And he says, yeah. I said, do you have a wife? He says, yeah. I said, do you have kids? He says, well, yeah. I said, how do you think they feel about it? And he just sat silent for a second. He goes, I never thought about that. And I said, well, that's because all you're doing is thinking about yourself, and that's the selfishness that you've got to address, because if you have a family out there and kids and a wife, and these are people who want you there, you've got to start making decisions based on that, not on what you want in here, and in the gang lifestyle and all this stuff. So I think in a nutshell, guys who are still active in gangs in prison, the board knows, confidentials are dropped. They're not, they know what's going on. They've been doing this job a long time, so they're well rounded. And if a person hasn't shown the change, hasn't shown the transformation, they're not getting a date. So I think it's really important to make that change. If that's really what your goal is, to go home, get off the yard, renounce that stuff, get off the yard, and start living pro-socially.
And let me just say that it is extremely rare to be granted parole off of a general population yard. It's, most of these commissioners just don't believe it, that you're just not in some way participating, turning a blind eye, hearing the conversations that are going, bringing a kite down to the guy down the way, maybe a confidant. They're just very suspicious of that active level 2 general population yard. It's very difficult. I mean, I have B yard on SADF, and Joe and I have B yard on SADF. It's a very colorful level 2 yard, and so getting paroled from that yard is very difficult. And the other thing, there's just too much temptation. And some will say, well, I need the temptation to really, put my program to the test. It's like, those other level 2 yards, there's still lots of temptation there for you. It's just too much temptation, and it's too dangerous. If you run into the wrong person that asks you to do the wrong thing. I talked to a guy today. It's like, when was the last time you participated in gang activity? Oh, I renounced, 8 years ago. I go, well, let's talk about the activity side of things, and what is this commissioner or what is this clinician talking about here? Oh, well, I have to get up every morning and do the count and do the cadence and do the such and so. I mean, that's just part of I'm like, there you go. There, and that's when I just go, I don't even know how to speak to that. It's just, you just don't get it. It's like, and don't be fooled. We also have Joe and I also have this situation where they think they're going to out talk or talk their way into a grant of parole, regardless of the fact that they've got confidentials, even without confidentials, but they're sitting on these soft general population yards. And by soft, I just mean you're just the old gangster in there,
Mm-hmm.
just sort of knowing better how to navigate around stuff, but you're still condoning, quite frankly, you're still condoning the activity by even being on the yard and and being busy with other things, with pro-social things. You're condoning that, because why, when you're asked, why are you not getting off this yard? 90, Joe can correct me, but 99% of the time is because I don't need or want, or I'm not going to tell you that this is my motivation to go over there to the yard with, as Dean more politely said, but I mean, let's be honest about what the kind of people they are. Those kind of people. And it's like, that's gang mentality, because that's your gang code.
Yeah.
What did you do as a gang member for years and years and years, but find guys, check their paperwork, see if they've got an R by it, and then they get targeted, and you participated in that. And by staying on the yard, it's like you're condoning that politic. So don't be fooled. Your loved one should not be fooled about, it's hard. It takes courage. And as humans, I know what it is. What prevents us from doing things? Courage.
Fear.
Fear. Yeah, fear, lack of humility, lack of courage, to just get beyond it. Fear of the unknown.
You know,
big one, fear of the unknown.
things lead to two things, either death or prison. So gangs have you to prison, and they're certain they're going to keep you in prison. So lead to death in prison, to staying in prison, the possibility of parole. So there's nothing about gangs. They're even if you're targeting other those gang members, they're going to be in of whatever damage.
We're losing you, Joe. Are you? Can you hear him, Dean?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, Joe's freezing up.
Yeah, he's freezing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's freezing up again, and I don't know why.
You know what? I'll log out and log back in.
Yeah, maybe you can pick up on what we caught from what Joe was saying, Dean. Just kind of carry the torch for him while he's signing in and signing out.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch any of what he was saying, Dean?
Some of it, yeah, I caught some of it. I could, but because he kept freezing, so it was cutting out. There was a lot that I didn't get.
Just the general notion, yeah. It was hard.
Yeah, I think it's the whole mentality. And the thing about too also is that you have soft level 2s. You can be GP soft level 2 and get a date. And it seems that a lot of the soft level 2s have a lot of programming. And so guys pour themselves into college and all these different self-help groups. But then you have certain prisons where, if you have a level 2, some of them are in rural areas in the middle of nowhere. And so there's not a lot of programs, that are offered there. So I was told this weekend that we were the only organization that goes into one of the yards in person. And I thought, that's too bad, because the more programming that they have, I think the more that it helps them. Now, granted, Pleasant Valley's, they're level 3s. I think one yard might have gone to a level 2. I'm not sure, but I know that there's 3 of them that are level 3s. But it can be difficult just based on where you're at, to be found suitable. A lot of times it's usually the guys who are on the non-designated yards. But I've worked with a lot of people who are on the GP and level 2s and 3s and who get dates. And I think what it is that they're able to show the change. I attended a seminar, and back then it was the keynote speaker was Jennifer Schaefer, when she was the executive director of the BPH, and she was really putting a lot of emphasis on the change. That there has to be the change. They've got to see the change, and then you've got to articulate that, not just say I've done 1,000 groups, but be able to speak and internalize what you learned in those thousands of groups. So and to show change, and also in your behavior in prison, the things that you're involved in, what you're doing. Um, so if you're still in a gang, the change isn't there. That's the thing that's stunting the growth right there. And I think that to cross over to a non-designated yard is the discomfort. People don't like change. Change is uncomfortable. And what we teach is that get comfortable in the discomfort, because that's where growth lives. So be able to make that change. And I agree. I think that a lot of times it's based off of fear. Fear of the unknown. Like you said, Elizabeth, people don't know what they're stepping into, what it's going to be like. And not only do you have people on non-designated yards that have R's on their jacket, but there are people who were former cops on the street. There's people who owed drug debts and didn't pay them. There are people who told on other people. So you have a variety that's there. But it's in prison, in the prison culture, it's the unsavory characters that are over there. And people don't want to be attached to that stigma. But I mean, and again, that's getting past yourself, and where are you at in your personal growth and development to where you're looking at other people and judging them rather than focusing on yourself and your own recovery.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, and that's a big criteria, structured decision-making framework, sort of one of Jennifer Schaefer's last projects, or one of her last projects before she left. Her legacy will be this, I don't know. It kind of bugs me, but the structured decision-making framework, there was no, vote or anything like it. It was kind of a subset of a regulation, which sort of bugs me because it seems to override Title 15, and I'm not sure how she got away with that, but she did. And there's got to be something in administrative law that I'm not understanding of how that came to be. But she put a lot of effort into that. She brought in committees from all over the world, literally, like Canadian model and things like that to make that. And one of the big ones is personal change. Used to be called offender change. That offended people, so then we start calling it personal change. So big. Yes. So is it possible to be granted parole on those yards? I just hesitate to say, a resounding yes, because the majority of the time it's no, because there's just too much going on there that you can't escape. Your loved one can't get around. So it's very difficult. Gangs do not let you just, they do and they don't. But there's also rules when you stay on that yard that you're still following unspoken or spoken rules about how you're going to conduct yourself as a so-called dropout, which is a kind of they use the term dropout, and then there's an official dropout. But anyway, as someone who says, I don't want to participate anymore, but I'm not going to leave this yard, I'll just sort of go along and we'll just sort of live together in a peaceful way, that there's rules to be followed. And so to get paroled from that is very, very tricky. You have to all planets have to align, basically. And you need to find the commissioner that's willing to say, all right, well, you're probably still following some of the rules, the softer rules. And because you don't want the most uncomfortable thing, which is having the courage to say, no, I'm going to go and dwell with people without being, like Dean says, judging them. You're judging. Judging is a character defect, and we're supposed to be looking at these character defects and trying to deal with them through steps 5, 6, and 7. So obviously step 6, you're not really willing, ready, and able to turn that over to God, to say, you know what, God, I'm a judgmental person and I need to get ready to turn this over. You're not even getting ready to turn it over if you're sitting on that yard. And I'm pretty staunch about it. I mean, if I talk to any one of Dean's clients from those yards and stuff, I'd still hold the same position. Can you get paroled off those yards? Yeah, but you're just playing. You're just gaming the system, in my opinion. You really are just gaming the system. You're not really doing what mine and Joe's other clients had to do to get found suitable, which is do the hard thing, which is do the step 6 and do the step 7 and get off the yard. Because I think the title should be more than get out of the prison gang and get off the prison yard, period. Period. That is my, that's how I would be if I was a commissioner. I wouldn't be a good commissioner. I would not be a good commissioner. I'm probably a good, it's better that I'm the lawyer, not the commissioner, because I would be very black and white, as Joe said about that.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you break it down to that definition of where two people or more are gathered in criminal thinking or criminal behavior, on the main lines, like you said, there's rules that you've got to follow. And a lot of races, as soon as you walk in, you're automatically in a gang. And so you're abiding by the rules. There's things that you don't drink after or eat with or play sports with or talk with another race. You don't use another. There's all these different things because in the system, everybody racially segregates themselves. And so you don't cross those boundaries. And if you do, then you're in violation and then you're subject to be harmed. So you're still living in a capacity that's gang, and but if you go over to the non-designated, that stuff doesn't exist over there.
And eat with your brother.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about your real brother.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are not these body suits, these meat suits. I'm talking about eat with your brother or sister and just stop the high school nonsense.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit more conservative than Dean. So we know what the topic is for next week, which will be a fantastic topic if Dean is able to pull this off for us and get the participants to sit around. I don't know how many participants. If it's a lot of participants, I don't know. We might be able to go around the room and take introductions and perhaps tell their, get a brief journey. Maybe it'll just be a longer show, which is fine too, so everybody has a chance to introduce themselves. And we'll see. We'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Last burning desire?
No,
did we give your book proper due today, Joe?
Oh yes, thank you. Yes.
Sorry, I'm delirious, so I'm up every 3 hours making sure that Mama does her job, and I don't know what they just need to. I guess they just need to know that. I don't know. They just want to make sure that I'm there or something. She's there or I'm there, or the dad, really good dad too. He comes and takes over sometimes as well, which is really interesting to see. Not a lot of dads probably participate in the weaning process, but there's always something. Water.
The more modern dads do.
He's a good dad. It's crazy to watch. It's so special to watch. He comes over and if one of us has to leave the puppy pen, he'll sit by the puppy pen and make sure that, nobody, whoever it is, someone comes to the gate. Some people came yesterday to look at the puppies, and he did not want them coming up here. That was crazy. Yeah. So really good. Week 5, I'm almost at week 6, 3 weeks to go. I was going to hold out for like 10 to 12 weeks, but I think they'll be fine at 8 weeks to move on.
Yeah. My wife has been on me. She keeps talking about the puppies, and I keep, it's like, I told her to make the pros and cons list to see, what's there.
I'll tell you, if you have you guys travel, and if you both travel together, and so then what, Yeah,
well, that's the dog we have now. He's a corgi mixed with the border terrier, and he's certified, so he can go with us. He actually goes inside with us when we go into Pleasant Valley. We take him with us.
I mean, I'd love for you to certify one of these little guys to take in, but they can't. It takes time,
Yeah, it does, and so it's. I mean, we have our plate full as it is. It's she, as soon as she sees puppies, and she's a dog trainer, she's just in love. We got to have it, and it's like, no, just wait. We got to think.
I would love for her to. We might end up keeping one, because after all these weeks with these guys, I'm we're all just, you end up with your favorite, and oh my God, it's the last litter that we're ever going to have. It's a special litter and all this stuff. And now we're looking at keeping one. I'm like, oh my God. But we're always here, so it doesn't matter. And, the puppy phase, it's only about 8 weeks of really just the puppy training to get up in the middle of the night to make sure they can go pee outside and stuff. But by that time they can sleep through the night, and it's not bad. But it's not ideal for you guys, but I would love for her to come and, teach me how to do some training, because I know how to train dogs. But when you have a dog like we have on this property that's been allowed to just roam, like they don't even know the word sit. So they're 5 acres herding hogs, and Jesse, if he sees one little weak link in the piglet batch, that piglet is in trouble. So we have to stay on him all the time for that, and train him not to chase chickens and all the stuff that comes along with it. But I don't know. It's probably our last. This is our last litter, and we're older. My husband's 65, so 65 and 15 years. These dogs live 15 years, so that makes him what, 80? So it would be the last. I don't know. After that, we'd probably get a Chihuahua, that sits in the front of the motorhome.
My wife's got this one trained up really good. He'll sit, lay down, stay, high five, shake, give you kisses. When he needs to use the bathroom, he goes to the front door and sits there and stares at you with this really intense look. So yeah, he's pretty good. He's well trained, and he's an older dog too. He's 9 years old. So
oh wow,
he's an old man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll talk, but I agree. I mean, it's tempting, but she'd have to maybe stay home. She wouldn't be able to come with you then for the trainings and stuff. Is she willing to? If she just have to ask herself, is she willing to do that?
Yeah. I'd have to talk to her to see what she's, what her schedule's like. I know she's, she works full time, and then she also works with Lighthouse. So, and then she's also a full-time college student.
Oh no! See, and these dogs just need someone that works from home. They just need a lot of attention. So it's fine. They're going like hotcakes. My husband has 20,000 YouTube followers, so they call us all the time.
That's cool.
We're doing okay in terms of. I just wanted people that wanted them to take them, but it's not really the best dog. It's not really It's a dog that wants to be around its human all the time.
Right.
Or it's not loyal to just one. So the nice thing about them is it's loyal to the family as a whole, whatever that family entails.
And it's a high energy dog too, isn't it?
Yep, it's high. It's high. It needs to be in service or just active or being walked, or it wants attention. It wants attention. But believe it or not, like right now, the dogs are with Alan. Down, he's doing a show, and they're all sitting around his feet, probably doing the show. But yeah, they just like almost every dog. Although I had a dog, Lou, we called him couch potato. He just wanted to lie on the couch. He wanted his one walk per day, and then he wanted to laze around from the minute we got him at 3 months old.
Oh man,
really low energy. So, but these would be great service dogs, but they need. So that's why I was saying I have a client at SADF. He's in the dog program. Like, talk to that person. Maybe you could, because I would love to give him my dog. I know that he would treat my dog really well. Not to mention they have to. If you don't treat the dog well, you'll be off the program. So, but he's a really sharp guy. I'd love him to train one of these dogs to become a service dog. Because when you're a service dog, right, the dog's always on.
Right.
They're always on, having to make sure that, is there something to do here?
Yeah.
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 I've always wanted to turn these into service dogs.
Yeah. Sometimes I think my service dog needs a service dog. He's his own animal.
Yeah. Well, it's a big commitment, and really do need stuff. So anyway, Joe, I will see you next week. Call me if you
Okay.
need anything. Call anybody. Call me anytime, and I will see you all. Have a
Okay.
All right,
wonderful
great.
day.
Have a good day.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.